Dünya Sağlık Örgütü'ne ulaşan rakamlara göre Ocak ayının ilk 3 haftasında görülen vaka ve ölüm sayıları en yüksek seviyeye ulaşmıştı. Şimdi ise bu sayının yarısına kadar gerilediği belirtiliyor. Oxford Üniversitesi'nde yeni bir koronavirüs ilacının deneyi yapılıyor. 18 ile 30 yaş arası sağlıklı gençler üzerinde denenen ilacın koronavirüs tedavisinde önemli bir adım olacağı belirtiliyor. Bilim insanları bu yöntemle daha önce yapılan deneyler sonucu geçmişte karşılaşılan salgınlara karşı etkili tedavi yöntemlerinin ortaya çıkarıldığını belirterek koronavirüs tedavisinde de bu yöntemle ortaya çıkarılması konusunda umutlu olduklarını açıkladılar. Koronavirüs sebebiyle tedavi bekleyenlerin sayısı hızla artıyor. NHS'ten yapılan açıklamaya göre koronavirüs tedavilerinden dolayı hastane ve doktorların diğer hastaları tedavi etmede yetersiz kaldığı belirtilerek Nisan ayında tedavi bekleyen hastaların sayısının 10 milyona çıkabileceği uyarısını yaptı. Aralık ayı itibariyle tedavi bekleyen insanların sayısının ise 4,4 milyon olduğu açıklandı. Bu durum daha önce hastane ve sağlık servisinde yapılan kesintileri akla getirdi. Koronavirüs öncesinde her yıl NHS bütçesinde kesintiler yapılıyor. Hastaneler kapatılıyor ve sağlık emekçilerinin maaşlarına zam yapılmıyordu. Başbakan Boris Johnson, düşen vaka ve ölüm sayılarını sebep göstererek alınan sıkı önlemlerin kademe kademe düşürüleceğini açıklamasının ardından NHS yetkilileri hükümeti uyararak acele etmeyin mesajı verdi. Johnson tarihe değil sayılara bakacağız derken NHS yetkilileri de düşüşe geçilen vaka sayıları önlemlerin gevşetilmesiyle birlikte tekrar yükselmesinin kaçınılmaz olduğunu söyleyerek sıkı önlem politikasının bir süre daha devam ettirilmesi gerektiğini vurguladı. Birleşik Krallık'ta aşı yoksa iş yok tartışması gündemde. Şirketlerin işe alımlarda veya mevcut çalışanların sözleşmelerinin yenilenmesi sırasında aşı pasaportu koşulunu öne sürebilecekleri gündemde. Yeni tip koronavirüse karşı bağışıklık sağlaması amacıyla yapılan aşılar, Birleşik Krallık'ta mecburi değil ancak şirketlerin ilerleyen dönemde işe alımlarda veya mevcut çalışanların sözleşmelerin yenilenmesi sırasında aşı pasaportu koşulunu öne sürmeleri aşıyı fiilen zorunlu kılabilir. Daha önce yaptığı açıklamalarda hükümetin aşı pasaportu gibi bir planının olmadığını belirten İngiltere'nin aşılamadan sorumlu bakanı Nadim Zahavi, Salı günü BBC'ye yaptığı açıklamada bazı şirketlerin işe alımlarda aşı şartı konusunda kendi planlarına göre hareket edebileceğini söyledi. Edinburgh Dükü Prens Philip'in hastaneye kaldırıldığı açıklandı. 2 ay sonra 100 yaşına girecek olan kraliçenin kocası Philip'in korona olmadığı belirtildi. Son birkaç gündür rahatsızlandığı ve Londra'daki bir hastaneye kaldırıldığı, şimdilik bir ölüm tehlikesinin olmadığı açıklandı. Birleşik Krallık'ta enflasyonun son 12 ayda 0,7 oranında yükseldiği açıklandı. Enflasyonun yükselmesinin sebebi olarak gıda fiyatlarının yükselmesi gösterildi. Merkez Bankası ise 2021 yıl sonu itibariyle %2 hedef belirlemişti. Birçok ekonomist fiyatların bu şekilde yükselme seyri devam ederse enflasyonun %2'nin üzerine çıkacağını açıkladı. Birleşik Krallık'ta ev fiyatlarının 2014'ten bu yana en yüksek seviyeye ulaştığı açıklandı. 2020 yılında ev fiyatlarında %8,5 oranında artış görüldü. Böylelikle Birleşik Krallık'ta bir evin ortalama fiyatının 252 bin olduğu açıklandı. Ulusal İstatistik Bürosu'nun açıklamasına göre ev fiyatlarının en çok yükseldiği bölge Kuzeybatı İngiltere oldu. Kuzeybatı'da %11,2 oranında artış görülürken Londra'da bu oran %3,5'te kaldı. Glasgow Rangers menajeri Steven Gerrard hafta sonu bir eğlenceye katılarak karantina kurallarına uymayan 5 oyuncusunun yanlış yaptıklarını ve kendisini hayal kırıklığına uğrattığını açıkladı. Gerrard kulübün futbolculara ceza vereceğini açıklayarak tüm halkın uyması gereken kurallara futbolcuların da uyması gerektiğini belirtti. İngiltere milli takımı ve Liverpool eski oyuncusu Gerrard yıllar sonra şampiyonlukta önemli bir avantaj yakaladığı Rangers'taki işine yoğunlaşmak istediğini de sözlerine ekledi. 5-10 kişi bir araya gelerek bir gösteri yaptığında koronavirüs önlemleri sebep gösterilerek gözaltına alınırken Erdoğan ilk kongrelerini binlerce kişiyi bir araya getirerek yapmaya devam ediyor. AKP'nin Ankara Kongresi'nde konuşan Erdoğan, Kılıçdaroğlu'nu terbiyesiz herif diyerek eleştirdi. Gare'deki rehinleri kurtaramayan ve sorumlusunu muhalefete iftira atarak kendi üzerinden atmaya çalışan Erdoğan için Kılıçdaroğlu 13 kişinin şehit olmasından Erdoğan sorumludur sözlerine Erdoğan hakaret edilerek eleştirdi. Türkiye'de aynı sözleri söyleyen herkes Cumhurbaşkanı hakaretten yargılanıyor. Öte yandan Kılıçdaroğlu da Erdoğan'ın hakaret dolu konuşmasının ardından tamamen kontrolünü kaybetti diyerek yanıt verdi. Müjdat Gezen ve Metin Akpınar için Cumhurbaşkanı'na hakaret suçlamasıyla ayrı ayrı 4 yıl 8 aya kadar hapis cezası istendi. Oyuncular Müjdat Gezen ve Metin Akpınar'a konuk oldukları bir televizyon programında yaptıkları konuşmada Cumhurbaşkanı'na hakaret suçunu işledikleri gerekçesiyle yargılandıkları davada açıklanan esas hakkındaki mütalada 1 yıl 2'şer aydan 4 yıl 8 aya kadar hapiste cezalandırılmaları talep edildi. Sağlık sorunları nedeniyle duruşmaya Metin Akpınar katılmazken Müjdat Gezen duruşmadan sonra istenen cezaya tepki göstererek söylenen sözlerin sözlük anlamını dile getirerek suç işlemediğini söyledi. 21 Aralık 2018 tarihinde Halk TV'de Uğur Dündar'ın Halk Aranesi programına katılan iki emektar sanatçı programda politik analizlerde bulunmuş, Erdoğan ve iktidarını eleştirmişlerdi. Duruşma 1 Mart'a ertelendi. Emek Partisi grevdeki Kadıköy Belediyesi işçilerine destek mesajında. İşçiler ne torpil ne ayrıcalık ne haksız kazanç istemektedir. Ürettikleri hizmetin karşılığını istemektedir dedi. Genel İş İstanbul Anadolu Yakası bir nolu şubenin örgütlü olduğu Kadıköy Belediyesi'nde toplu iş sözleşmesi görüşmelerinde anlaşma sağlanamadı. Kadıköy Belediyesi'nin işçilerin toplu iş sözleşmesi taslağında yer alan taleplerini kabul etmemesi üzerine greve gidildi. Emek Partisi grevdeki işçilere destek için yayınladığı mesajında belediye işçileri ne torpil ne ayrıcalık ne de haksız kazanç istemektedir. İnsanca yaşam ve çalışma koşulları için ürettikleri hizmetin karşılığını istemektedir dedi. Günün haberlerinden bu akşamlık bu kadar. Yayınımız Ceren Sağar'ın sunumuyla İşçiler ve Örgütleri programıyla devam edecek. İyi akşamlar.
Programımıza hoş geldiniz. Bu akşam konuğumuz Ulusal Demiryolu Denizcilik ve Ulaşım İşçileri Sendikası RMT'nin Genel Sekreter Yardımcısı Steve Hedley. Yayınımız İngilizce devam edecek. İyi seyirler. Hi Steve, thank you for joining us. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
It's great having you on the show. For those who don't know, RMT is the National Union of Rail, Maritime and Transport Workers. These are some of the workers that have been risking their safety to keep the country running during the coronavirus pandemic. RMT has a commendable record of fighting for its members, from keeping guards on trains and protecting seafarer jobs to demanding public ownership of Britain's railways. Steve is running in the General Secretary elections that are upcoming. Steve, could you tell us a little bit about why you're running for this role and what your vision is for the RMT?
Well, at this particular time, not only are we under massive attack as transport workers, but the whole working class is under attack. The government and the bosses are using COVID as an excuse to bring in all the things that they wanted for the past 30 years. They want to reduce the number of jobs, get rid of jobs. They want to reduce pay, and they want to destroy people's terms and conditions. So firstly, I'm standing because I believe that we need to fight back against this. We can't go into a round of concession bargaining where we give away our rights and we just settle for no pay rise. We have a position in England where the train operating companies, the private companies, are guaranteed a profit no matter what happens. They're guaranteed a 2% profit. And they've decided not to give us any pay rise, or our members who've been working through the pandemic any pay rise. So that's my first priority, is to get that pay rise for people, to keep their standard of living, protect their terms and conditions, and of course they keep the jobs. And I don't think that there's any other candidate that can really achieve that.
Right. Speaking of which, so as with many workers, your members are facing a lot of hardship and have been affected by the coronavirus pandemic. Aside from the issue of health, which is something that we can discuss in a little bit, but and you mentioned some of the issues with pay rise and cuts in jobs, but what are some of the biggest struggles that your members are facing, and what is the RMT's demands for these?
Well, I mean, in London, where we are at the minute, we've got billions of pounds of cuts to the public transport system, and that's because I think it's the only place in the world where national government doesn't give a substantial amount of money subsidy to the public transport system. And in fact, the underground itself makes a profit, but the rest of transport for London makes a loss. So that's one of the big battles that we've got. They're trying to bring in a model where at the minute we've got people at every station, station staff at every station. They want to bring in a model that will dispense with them. You'll only have staff in central London stations and not on the outskirts. They also want to come for our pension scheme. Our pension scheme is relatively good. It certainly doesn't make anybody a millionaire, but it means that people in their old age don't have to go to food banks and can live a decent lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And the government have got that in their sights. They've had it in their sights for years and years. And now they see that the coronavirus is here. It's an excuse for them to come after that pension scheme. So that's some of the battles we're at. They've also used this as an opportunity to single out representatives, especially if they've been vocal representatives of the workers. We've seen a lot of sackings happening, and they're calculating that the mood of the workers is such that they're not going to fight back. And of course, we've got that battle on our hands. We've got to persuade people that we still transport a third of the people in this country that we usually transport, but they're the people that are essential to running the economy. So we have that internal argument as well. We need to convince our members that they're still a powerful union. They can still take strike action. And I think that up and down the country, we're seeing the train operating companies trying to make job reductions. We see people trying to be forced to they work unsafely during the pandemic and do unnecessary jobs. And these are the main battles we're in at the minute. With the same on the ferries and the offshore, we're facing massive job cuts everywhere. And what the bosses in England have been doing as a tactic is to be sacking a workforce, an entire workforce. And you've even had that in some Labour councils, Tower Hamlets in particular, British Gas. And then they rehire that same workforce on less money, less terms and less conditions.
Yeah, that's the fire and rehire tactics that they call.
Yeah.
Is the RMT currently taking on any campaigns or taking any strike actions to address these issues?
Yeah, well, we're campaigning at the minute, and we're balloting in several areas. At the minute, it's mostly in defence of representatives that have been sacked. They're using really any excuse to get rid of effective representatives because they see this as a way of destroying the union, of nullifying the union. If you can get rid of representatives, of course, people will see that and they'll think, well, I don't want to be a representative because they're going to sack me. So it's an attack on the organisation, and that's the campaigns that we're involved in. We're also involved in campaigns to renationalise the railway. We believe that the railway now has been massively subsidised by the taxpayer. And the obscenity is that billions of pounds are being put in for the taxpayer. And we understand we're not moving many people. We're moving about a third of what we usually move, but the shareholders are still getting a guaranteed profit. And it's very simple. I mean, if the taxpayers are paying for it, surely they should get the benefits of when it goes back to a full service, and all those profits should go back into the inland revenue and the national company rather than go into the pockets of the private shareholders.
Moving on to speak about a bit of the health side of the pandemic. And the issues that workers are facing. Key workers, so that includes the transport cleaners and bus drivers and all the staff working on transport. they have not been included in the vaccine priority list, and are not properly protected from COVID at the moment. They will be, I believe, will be vaccinated at the same time as the general public. The answer might be obvious, but why is it vital for these workers to be vaccinated with urgency, and how is this affecting their livelihoods, would you say?
Well, I mean, in London alone, we've had hundreds of deaths of transport workers. Bus workers in particular have been very badly hit because the nature of their job is that they come in contact with a lot of people. And the London Transport were very, very late in getting protective screens up to protect people. And they were very late in issuing protective equipment. So we've had a lot of deaths. And of course, transport workers have to come into contact with the public. And most of the public do abide by the regulations, but many of them won't wear masks or are exempt from wearing masks. And transport workers are on the front line. Their job is that they've got to go to work, they can't sit at home, and they've got to come in contact with the public who are carrying the virus. And we've had a lot of fatalities and a lot of sickness. So, I mean, it would make sense that the transport workers should be given a priority in the vaccination list. Why would someone who can work from home be put ahead or be put in the same place as a transport worker that has got absolutely no choice but to go to work every day? It doesn't make any sense in any way.
Sure. And I suppose, I'm not sure who it was, I think it might have been the TUC that did sort of polls on this, that a lot of workers are sort of afraid to self-isolate, even if they are concerned about possibly having the virus, because they're worried about not being paid, you know, that they feel like they feel obligated to go into work. Is this something that's quite common in the transport industry as well?
Well, most of the big companies that we deal with are on full sick pay, but a lot of the smaller companies, the contracted companies, are on statutory sick pay, which is about a third, not even a third of what people would usually get. So if you're asked to isolate during the period of coronavirus, that's 10 days at least isolation. So that's 10 days where you're only going to get a third of your wages. And it's actually a disincentive to people declaring that they have got COVID. It's a disincentive for people to go and get a test. And I think it's one of the reasons why the coronavirus has killed so many people in this country. I think we're the third worst in the world. And at sometimes we've got appalling death statistics. I think 700 in all people died today because 730 odd people died today alone because last 24 hours because of corona. And every time that people are penalized financially for not coming to work, that statistic's only going to get worse, because people, they either go out there and risk being sick, or they risk not eating, not being able to feed their family, not being able to heat their house at home.
I know some workers, such as transport cleaners, they are outsourced, so they come from companies that aren't owned by TfL. Is that a contributing factor to what kind of benefits they receive and how they're treated?
Yeah, I mean, people that are working for subcontractors, we've got a firm called STM, which are their travel safe officers, and they're not getting paid. And we've had somebody on that firm who's gone home. He's gone to work, contracted the virus, and then gone home, and his wife contracted the virus from him because she was isolating. He was the only person she saw, and unfortunately, his wife's died. But it's a real disincentive for people, and the contracting system, which is in operation, is shocking, really, because you've got people who work directly for the company, by and large, have decent pay, decent conditions, and can take time off work if they're sick. And people that work for the subcontractors don't have any of those facilities. They haven't got a decent pension. They're lucky to have sick pay at any point. And if they have to self-isolate, then they lose 2/3 of the money that they're usually on. So it is a shocking situation, and it is exacerbated because of the system of employment, which is the contract system.
what other forms of protections are needed for workers, especially since the job retention scheme is going to come to an end in April? So you've spoken about sick pay, but is there any other specific protections that need to be put in place?
Well, I'm not sure that the job protection scheme will come to an end. I mean, it was extended the last time. I think when everybody's had the inoculation, that might be a better time to do that. But certainly it'd be a strange decision to do that now, because what you're going to have is millions of people thrown on the dole queue, on the unemployment register. And I don't think that's going to help anybody. So it would be a really foolish thing for the government to do. But I mean, that doesn't mean that they're not going to do it. I think there are certain industries like hospitality, hotels, caterers, restaurants, pubs that aren't going to get back to normal for some time. So what are they intending to do through all those millions of people that are employed in those industries and the unemployment? That it doesn't make sense. So we'd hope that the government will extend the scheme. The scheme's not perfect by any means, but it certainly would be an improvement on just letting people be unemployed, because if they're unemployed, they will have to go along anyway and claim benefits. So it doesn't make any sense. So we should keep those jobs open. We should invest in those industries that are going to be hardest hit, and make sure when there's a recovery, when people have had the inoculations, then the vaccine, then there will be people trained and ready to go.
We also know that Black, Asian and ethnic minority people have been disproportionately affected by COVID, and such communities have seen higher death counts. The government is unsurprisingly not doing enough to tackle inequalities in society and the workplace, which are contributing to this. How are unions such as RMT working to tackle racial inequality in the workplace?
Well, the only way that you're going to abolish racism is to abolish capitalism. You can't have a capitalist system that doesn't have racism in it. And the people that have from ethnic minorities, they are disproportionately affected, but that's because most of them are in the lower income groups, and those lower income groups have got less access to housing. They've got less access to a decent lifestyle. They're in the lower paid jobs. They're in the jobs where you can't sit at home, that you've got to go to work, because otherwise the economy grinds to a halt. So what we're doing obviously is we don't agree with any discrimination in society. If people are from a different race, religion, or whatever, we're against all discrimination. But the major discrimination in society is the economic oppression that people are laboring under. And that's the white working class, the Black working class, the Asian working class. So this is really a class issue. It would achieve nothing, in my opinion, if we lifted a certain section of people out of the working class. We look for the whole working class for a solution. The whole working class, no matter what color they are. And that solution is that they get better terms and conditions, they get better housing, they get better pay, and they don't be put in a position where they're vulnerable to any viruses.
The attacks on workers' rights and the need for unionization has been highlighted by the pandemic, which has obviously worsened some of their conditions, as we've discussed. What would you say to workers about the importance of joining a union?
Well, I mean, it's at this particular time, I think unions are absolutely essential. I think that's we know that there's going to be massive job cuts. We know that they're going to try to discriminate against people because their face doesn't fit, or they've got the wrong color skin, or they've got the wrong color eyes, or the boss just doesn't like them. So now is the time that people should be joining trade unions for their own protection, really. You know, they don't have to be convinced of our ideology or wider strategies, but simply for self-protection, they need to be joining a union. Because if they get sacked, you can't join a union the day afterwards. We're not going to represent you. If you're put on the unemployment queue one day and then you try to join a union the next day. You can't do that because we're just there to represent members. So really, we need everybody to join the union now, and make it as difficult as possible for the employers to try to carry out their attacks. The more people we've got in the union, the easier it is to fight off these attacks. And for that individual, it's the only protection that they're going to get.
There's quite a high number of cab drivers and transport workers in the within the Turkish and Kurdish community. Do you have a message for them, and whether or not they should affiliate and join the RMT?
Yeah, we've got quite a number of them already in the union. I met with them about a month ago, and what I would say to them is that cab drivers are public transport workers as far as we're concerned. We should be fighting for them just as hard as we fight for the people that work on the underground or on the railway system or on the seafarers or sea people. So yeah, I would encourage them all to join a union. I mean, a lot of cab drivers now are having to take second jobs because there's just no business for them. And we need to put more pressure on the government to look after cab drivers because, again, when the recovery comes, these are the people that are going to be badly needed in order for that recovery to take full flight.
I guess I just wanted to go back to a little bit about your campaign for General Secretary. When is the elections taking place?
The ballot goes out on the 1st of March, and unbelievably, there's about a 3-month balloting period for the RMT, and that's because it's a thing left over from a previous age where seafarers were at sea for a long time, and basically we've never changed it. So the ballot, it'll be decided on the 4th of May. I think the result comes in on the 4th of May. So it's a 3-month balloting period. And yeah, going to have to wait till May to get a result.
How do you feel about your chances in the election?
Well, I mean, I think I've got a reasonable chance. I think there are 2 main candidates in it, and we've got very different views on how the union should be run and very different political views. And it's a choice, really. I'm offering a union that's democratically controlled and member-led. And in my opinion, the other main candidate is offering a union that's top-down and bureaucratic. So I think that our members have to make that choice, what kind of union they want. I want a union that goes out and fights for every one of our members to make our lives better economically and socially, with a work-life balance, decent pension when they finish work. And no one's ever going to come up and just give us that. No one's just going to say, well done. We're feeling benevolent today. You can have all these things. We're going to have to fight for them. We're going to have to organize for them. So that's the kind of union that we're in. And not only just for people in the union, but I want to influence the wider working class movement. I think we've still got 6 million trade unionists in this country. It's not enough. We should have a lot more than that. But even the movement that exists is far too influenced by the right wing, by the Labour Party, who have reverted their right wing stereotype in this country. And we need an independent voice for workers, and I believe that the RMT can provide a leading role in that. We can lead the way, which we done a few years ago, both industrially and politically in the workers' movement.
Well, I think you've sold me on that. I wish RMT also represented journalists to help. We have a little bit more time left, so speaking a little bit about the ideology in RMT. I wanted to ask you about RMT's relationship with the Labour Party.
Sure.
I know that RMT is not affiliated with the party, but I know that it was also quite supportive of the former leader, Jeremy Corbyn.
Yeah.
But with the new leader, Keir Starmer's appointment has seen the party sort of shift in some of its approaches, I guess is a polite way of putting it. And there have been, since his election and some of his policies thereafter, a lot of, not a lot of, some unions have or are considering disaffiliating from the party. How do you see RMT's relationship with Labour in the future?
Well, we disaffiliated when Tony Blair was the Prime Minister and he was attacking the working class and our members amongst that. And there was a debate when Jeremy was leader. It was a bit of a sea change. We had socialists in the leadership of the Labour Party. But Jeremy, I feel quite sorry for him, but he allowed good comrades in the party like Chris Williamson to be isolated one by one and fed to the wolves. And eventually those wolves came and ate Jeremy. And we pointed that out to him a year in advance and he didn't listen to us. And although I campaigned for a reaffiliation to the Labour Party when Jeremy was there, I'm glad I lost that argument. I'm so glad that we are not affiliated to that Labour Party anymore. We have not only economically, there's very little difference between them and the Conservative Party now, but also on the subject of anti-Semitism. Anybody who supports the Palestinian cause is labelled an anti-Semite. If you're critical in any way of the Israeli state, you're labelled an anti-Semite. And there's been an ongoing campaign to bar supporters of Palestine and critics of Israel from a Labour Party. And to be honest, I've just had enough of it. I tore up my party membership and I'm not going to give money to an organisation that Keir Starmer's in charge of. And worse than Keir Starmer, there's an endemic mood and an endemic policy in the Labour Party that Israel cannot be criticised. So they can go and kill as many Palestinians as they like. They can refuse to distribute the vaccine to Palestinians. They can bomb Palestinian homes, kill children. But if you criticise that, you're somehow an anti-Semite. And I'm not prepared, to be honest. A Labour Party membership means nothing to me. If there's an outrage going on in the world, it's every duty of every socialist to actually highlight that outrage. And if that means being out of the Labour Party, that's what it means.
Well, I think I'm all out of questions that I had prepared, but thank you so much for joining us tonight. And it was a pleasure speaking to you. Is there anything you wanted to say to our viewers before you go and to the community?
Well, it's been a pleasure to work with the Turkish and Kurdish community in Britain. I've done it for the past 25 years. I think I've been to Istanbul and I was actually tear gassed at Taksim Square, the first protest at Taksim Square. So I know you've got a lot of problems over there with the Erdogan government as well. But look, just keep doing what you're doing. Tyrants fall. History has seen tyrants fall. They may seem all powerful one minute, they're gone the next minute. So solidarity to all your viewers.
Thank you so much and all the best with the election. Evet, RMT'nin Genel Sekreter Yardımcısı Steve Hedley ile işçiler hakkında sohbet ettik bugün. Bu akşamki programımızın sonuna geldik. Yarın akşam biz Kadınlar programıyla tekrar aynı saatte görüşmek üzere. Hoşça kalın.